find your shade. I'm going to show you how to turn your powder into a liquid. Hey loves, it's Stephanie Hart and I'm back again with another video. On this channel, I make beginner friendly makeup videos. If that's something that you are interested in, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to like the video so that you can become part of the family. This video, it might be a little lengthy because this is going to be an official introduction to makeup. So get your pen, get your papers out because we are diving straight in and it's going to be extremely detailed. We're going to be learning about foundation shades, how to find your shade. We're going to learn about the difference between a matte foundation, a dewy foundation. We're going to be learning all about foundation and concealer. If that's something that you are interested in, then keep on watching. All right, so when I first started learning how to do makeup, the first thing I did was buy a brush set. Now, I will recommend that you guys buy a brush set that tells you what each brush is used for. For example, this brush that I have is from Absolute New York, and it tells you that it's a pro liner brush. And this is what the brush looks like. I do have a tutorial up already that describes in detail what each brush is and what each brush is used for. I'll link it so you guys can go check it out. But I recommend getting a brush set that tells you what the brushes are so that you can accomplish whatever look that you're looking for. All right, so let's talk foundation. There's a lot of types of foundations out there, but before we get into that, I'm going to tell you how you can find your foundation shade. So the first thing you want to do is determine what is your undertone. And an undertone is basically the hues beneath the surface of your skin that's going to determine how the foundation shows up. Now, there are 3 different types of undertones. You can have warm, cool, or neutral. A warm undertone is usually maybe like more tan, more peachy. When you under natural light, your skin is going to look more tan or peachy. For people who have cool undertones, it's going to be more of a red or a blue hue. I know you hear people say sometimes they put foundation on and they look ashy. That can be because if you have a cool undertone and you use a foundation that's like for more of a warm undertone, it's going to come up ashy. For neutral, it's exactly what it says, is a mixture of both warm and cool. So if you go under natural light, you can tell from your skin whether it looks warm or do it look cool. So once you've determined what your undertone is, then we can figure out what type of foundation you want to get. Now, sometimes it can be hard to tell what your correct shade is because in a bottle it can look, if you're going for a liquid foundation, in the bottle it can look warm, and then when you put it on your skin it comes out ashy. So that's why we are not going to test our foundation out on our hand. A lot of times people, when they test out foundation, they like to do it on their hand, but a lot of times our hand is a lot lighter than our face, or sometimes vice versa. So my method is to match it to your neck. So for example, I'm going to take my foundation. This one is a liquid foundation, and I'm going to match it to my neck. Now, I'm going to do another foundation I'm going to put it right next to the one that I already have. Now, as you can see, this one here looks a lot darker and this one looks a lot warmer. They both look warm, but just one is darker, a little bit darker, and then one is more on the tan side. Now, I can use both foundations depending on, I guess, the season. So if it's like, maybe if I got a tan, I could probably go with this one. But since my skin is actually a little bit lighter right now, I can go with this color. All right, so the next thing I brought was foundation. Now, there are many different types of foundation. You have liquid, cream, or powder, and they can be either light coverage, a medium coverage, or full coverage. And they can also be either matte or dewy. So I'll tell you the difference between all of them. All right, so a full coverage foundation, more times than not, you don't need to build it up, so to speak. Like if you have a couple of blemishes, like I have a mole right here and I also have freckles. So if I use a full coverage foundation, it will basically cover my freckles and it will cover up my mole. Now, a medium coverage, if you're trying to, you can get a medium coverage and still get like a good finish with it, like a full coverage, but you would just have to build it. A medium coverage may not cover this, but it'll probably still cover my freckles. A light coverage foundation is more skin-like, is probably just gonna cover up a few blemishes, but if you have acne scars, then I would say go more towards a medium to full coverage foundation. Now, the difference between a matte and a dewy finish is that the difference between a matte finish and a dewy finish is that a matte finish is less shiny than a dewy finish. It's more so a little bit of a dry kind of look, whereas dewy will make you look just a teeny bit shiny sometimes, but matte, it looks less shiny, looks more powdery type of finish, whereas a dewy finish is a little bit more glowy, it's a little bit more shiny. And the reason why I would recommend a dewy finish for people with dry skin is because if you already have dry skin and you go for a matte finish, then your skin is going to be even more dry after that and your makeup might start to crack. Whereas if you go with a dewy finish, it looks a little bit more moisturized and it's better for your skin if you have dry skin. That's the best way I can describe the difference between a dewy finish and a matte finish. For a beginner, I would recommend using a cream foundation. And I say use a cream foundation only because I think it's easier to learn how to blend with a cream foundation. I'll show you an example of that real quick. Okay, so I told you that there are different types of foundation, and I mentioned a powder, a liquid, and also cream. There's no right or wrong of which one you use. It just depends on which one you're comfortable with. When I first started learning how to do my makeup, I started off with a cream foundation because I found that it was easier. I didn't have to do a lot of blending. But if you think that a liquid, I would say try each one, but if you think a liquid is a lot easier, then go for it. But here's an example of a cream foundation. It's a little bit, it's kind of wet, so it may look like, some people might say that it's a liquid, but I'm going to say that it's a cream foundation. But this is the Tier. And this is in the color Deep Cocoa. This is what it looks like. Now, what I'm saying about not having to do a lot of blending with a cream foundation, this is what I mean. Just gonna put the sponge in there and basically pat it on your face. Now, this is a lot lighter than my actual skin tone, but what I'm saying is that you don't have to do a lot of blending. A lot of times when you use a cream foundation, it's a lot easier to just put it on. Yeah, this is super, super light. And you can see that it's not really, really heavy. And you can see how easy it was for me to just put it on and not really have to do a lot. Now, I also think that it's a lot easier to find your shade in a cream foundation than it is with a liquid foundation. That's just my opinion, but you might think something different. Now with a liquid, you kind of gotta blend it out more. Like you really, really have to buff it into your skin when you are using a liquid. Also, when I first started doing makeup, there wasn't a lot of shade differentiation. There wasn't a lot of different shades to choose from. So a lot of times I would have to mix my foundation in order to get the right color. Now with a powder foundation, you want to use a powder brush. So like powder foundations are usually good for like a person that wants like really, really minimal makeup. Like you're not really trying to do too much. You just learning how to do makeup and you just need something to do on the go. Like you're just trying to be real quick. Also, powders to me aren't really full coverage. Like they're hard to build up, but they get the job done. All right, so this side is a powder foundation, and on this side is where I used both the liquid and the cream foundation. This side looks a lot more full coverage. This side looks real sheer, but it doesn't look as oily or as dewy as this side. But yeah, it's personal preference. There's no right or wrong which one you decide to do. I would say just go with whatever you feel comfortable with doing. But I will give you guys a bonus tip now. All right, so here's a bonus. Say you find a powder foundation and you were looking for a liquid one, but you couldn't find your shade. I'm going to show you how to turn your powder into a liquid. So you're going to get your powder foundation, and this is the powder that I'm using, and you want to scrape it up a little bit. So scrape some up a little bit, put it on the back of your hand. You're going to get your moisturizer. This one is from Anua. And then mix it together. And this is how you turn your powder foundation into a liquid. And look. It goes on really, really smooth. So the next thing we're going to talk about is concealers. Now, just like foundations, concealers can also come in cream or they can come in liquid. When you are using a concealer, if you are looking to brighten your face, then I would suggest going 2 shades lighter than your actual skin tone. But if you're looking to bring more shadows to your face or trying to contour, for example, I would say go 1 shade or 2 shades darker. So this contour palette is from Nika K, New York, and it has 6 different shades. Now, like I explained before, if we were going to bring more shadows to our face, like contouring, then we would go for the darker colors. But if we're trying to bring more brightness to our face, then we would use the lighter colors. Now, if you are using a concealer to conceal either dark marks or acne scars, I would suggest going your exact shade. And if you are just looking to contour, then of course you would go like 2 shades darker. So in this palette, this is a cream contour palette, and my shade, I would either go here or here. I think this one is more so my skin tone. You can barely see it. And this might be a little bit lighter. Yeah, that's light. But if I mix the two, I can probably still get my shade. Like, that's not an issue. But concealer can conceal your blemishes. You can wear it under your foundation or you can put it on top. I prefer putting it on top, but if you are using it as a color corrector or you just want to cover up some of your blemishes, then you can use it for that too. Now, you don't have to use a concealer and a foundation if you don't want to. You can either use a concealer alone or you can use a foundation alone. It all depends on your preference and what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. If you just want to not go a day without wearing any type of foundation, but you just want to cover up some of your blemishes, then go for a concealer that is either your same shade or you can go 1 shade lighter. So I'll give you an example. Right here, you can see that I have like a little blemish right there. You can cover it with a concealer. This one is from Maybelline Fit Me and it's in the color Walnut. And then you can tap it with your finger. And voila, gone. You can do that anywhere you have any type of blemishes. If you're using a concealer to just highlight or make your under eye a little bit brighter, then I would recommend using a concealer that's either 1 or 2 shades lighter than your normal skin tone. So if you're the same shade as me, then the concealer I would recommend is the Maybelline Fit Me in the color Cafe. Now, I'll show you the concealer. You can either use a brush or a sponge to blend out your concealer. I'm going to use a brush. And I'm just going to tap, 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 tap. I'm going to look up to make sure I get the creases as well. I'm going to use my foundation brush to blend out the edges. All right, now you can tell the difference between this side and this side. So this is the side that has the concealer and this is the side that doesn't. You can tell that this side is a lot more bright than this side. And here you can see that my eyes are a little bit dark underneath, whereas I look a lot more brighter and more awake. Now, a lot of times people like to use concealer under their eyes so that they can look more awake and more energized, especially in the morning where you might wake up with like puffiness or that type of sort of thing. But let me show you what it would look like if I was to use a concealer the same as my skin tone. Now, this concealer is more close to my shade. What you're trying to achieve with your makeup. So if you're looking for something to brighten up your under eye, then go 2 shades lighter with your concealer. But if you just want to conceal your blemishes, then you can go either your exact shade or just 1 shade lighter. All right. You see the difference? This is my shade and this is just 2 shades lighter. They look very similar, but this looks a lot more brighter. All right, I'm going to wipe this side just so you can see an example of what a cream concealer would look like. So I'm going to go in with my concealer brush, and I think I'm going to go in with this shade. That is really, really, really bright. A cream, you definitely have to build it up. With a liquid, I don't have to do as much building. But I do think creams are a lot easier to control. And I think creams are a lot more sheer than liquid foundations and liquid concealers. All right, so on this side, I have a liquid concealer, and on this side, I have a cream concealer. It's not much of a difference, but this side looks more full coverage. This side looks a lot more sheer, at least to me anyways. But they kind of have similar finishes. What you guys think? All right, so that concludes today's lesson. If there's anything that I missed in this video, comment down below and let me know what it is that you want to learn, what it is that you don't understand, or anything that you have questions about. Also, let me know what you want the next videos to be on. This one, I wanted to focus on foundation and concealer. I think the next one, I might focus on like eyeshadow or something like that. But you guys can let me know what it is that you want. Until then.